Hey everybody, this is JP here. Just wanted to come in here for a second and talk about on a very it's a very important day for me, a milestone I've reached. Today I am 18 years sober. Um, it's hard for me to believe. It's been a lot of stuff under the bridge, a lot of water under the bridge that brought me to this moment. But I'm just really beyond anything else. I'm really grateful. Um, August 17th, 2007. I went down this long gravel driveway to a house in Oxford, Georgia, which is just right outside of Covington, to a place called Damascus Road Recovery. And that's when everything changed for me, and it didn't happen overnight. And I've told my story a few times in AA meetings, and when I was about 5 years sober, I wrote down my story, and I've shared it a lot. Um, Over the years, I've shared it on this day. Um, and I thought this time I would do something a little different. I thought that this time maybe I would read my story, and I've never actually done that before. Read it out loud, and this might take a little while, and I might stop and comment on anything that I think might be interesting. Anyway, but I just want to say that I'm really grateful, and it's not, you'll hear it in the rooms of AA and NA, that a grateful alcoholic doesn't drink or a grateful addict doesn't use, and it's really true. It sounds corny, but it's really true. And one of the things, if you're struggling, if you're new in recovery, and if you're struggling with this sobriety thing, is to every day, whether you write it down on paper or do it in your head or whatever, but every day sit down and talk about the things that you're grateful for, you know. And then, some of you out there might be like where I was when I first started trying to get sober. Is I didn't have anything to be grateful for. And so if you feel like you don't have anything to be grateful for, go out and get something to be grateful for. You can change it. Go change it. And if you don't like the road you're on, you can always take another road. It's not simple. It's not complicated. It's simple. So anyway, I'll stop preaching, but I want to go ahead and just read this story, and we'll see how it goes. I urge everybody out there, if you know anybody that this might help, please share this video with them. You have my complete permission to share it with whoever you need to. And I'm going to be posting this on Facebook, and I'm also going to be posting it on my YouTube channel. And so if you're dealing with something, message me on Facebook Messenger, or drop me a message in the YouTube comments. I'll be happy to talk to you. I'll be happy to try to point you in the right direction. I'll listen to you. I'll cuss you out. I'll do whatever you need, and I know where you're at. And if you guys had seen me on August 17th, 2007, you wouldn't have thought that I could stay sober, or that I would even be alive for 18 days, much less 18 years. And so now I have a good job. I have a good, nice car. I own a house. None of this, none of this would be possible without the grace of God, and without the program that I found that helped me was the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And so, but here goes, and bear with me, okay? I didn't rehearse any of this because I believe that it's important to be real, and I'm just going to be real with you guys today. So here we go. Hello, my name is JP Carroll and I'm an alcoholic. At the time I write this, I'm 45 years old and I've been sober for nearly 4 years. This is my story about what it was like, what happened to change it, and what it's like now. I was born in 1966 in Elizabethtown, Kentucky. My parents were both in their 40s when I came along, so it's possible I was an unplanned surprise. I have a sister who is 4 years older than I am. Alcoholism goes way back on both sides of my family. My ancestors, especially in the era of the Great Depression, were poor, hard-working, and hard-drinking people. If you shook my family tree, it would be wise to run because bottles, jugs, and cans would fall all over you. That's no joke. I've been to some family reunions over the years and seen some family over the years that, woo, good Lord, drank. They could drink. Anyway, my father escaped the poverty of the cotton fields by joining the Army, where he spent his entire career becoming a sergeant first class. My mother escaped the poverty of the cotton fields by marrying my father. When I was 4 years old, my dad retired from the Army and we moved to Carrollton, Georgia. I didn't know it at the time, but this was when alcohol would start to play a part in my life. My dad had a hard time finding a job when he got out of the Army. He had to settle for a job pumping gas, and like for you young people out there, it used to be a job. People would pull up and you'd have to pump their gas and change their oil and all that kind of stuff. You don't see that much anymore. But he was sick all the time, and I didn't understand why. We were poor, living in a trailer park. My mother had a job as a maid in a hotel, and on the side sold Avon door to door. Avon was like perfume and stuff like that. It used to be a big thing back in the day. She never learned to drive, and we didn't have a car, so anything we did, we had to walk to do it. My father's illness, of course, was severe alcoholism. By the time I was 6 years old, he could barely function. He had been given 6 months to live by the doctors due to the damage he had done to his liver. If he couldn't get a hold of whiskey or beer, he would drink anything he could, rubbing alcohol, shampoo, even the Avon perfume my mother was trying to sell. One day, when my mother was at work, my dad asked my sister and I to get some money. I'm sorry. I'm getting a little... I didn't know I was going to be emotional. I apologize. This takes on a different tone when you read it out loud. One day when my mother was at work, my dad asked my sister and I to get some money from our mom and buy him some beer at the package store. It was a different time then. The man at the package store knew my father's situation and had no problem with a 6-year-old and a 10-year-old buying beer to take to their daddy. Well, walking to perform this task took a little while. When we got back home, my sister and I stopped to check on some flowers we had planted in the yard. It was a hot June day, and she asked me to run in the house right quick and get some water for the flowers. I was too short to reach the kitchen sink, so I went down the hall to the bathroom sink. It was there in the hall that I found my father lying there dead from a heart attack. The skin on his face had turned a greenish blue color. Now, 39 years later, I can still close my eyes and see it as clearly as that day. I apologize, everybody. I can still see it. It's something that, and you people out there who are drinking, who have a drinking problem, need to think about. It's easy to lose touch of what your alcoholism does to other people. There are people like it can affect you on your job, it can affect you in your family or whatever, but I was a 6-year-old boy, and it traumatized me. And it caused me to grow up very angry. I apologize, everybody. I'm just going to keep pressing on. Okay. Now, 39 years later, I can still close my eyes and see it as clearly as that day. I was too young to comprehend what was going on. Most children learn about the meaning of death from losing a goldfish or watching Bambi, but this is how I learned. Everything was chaotic and confusing. JP, your dad is dead. He was an alcoholic. I didn't know what that meant, but obviously it was bad. So began a lifetime of almost crippling shyness. I was retreating into a shell. I had and still have a vivid imagination. I still catch my mind wandering off into another world sometimes. You can ask people at work that, sometimes I'm just not there. I discovered Superman comics. Superman was everything that my father was not. Superman wouldn't get drunk. Superman wouldn't die and leave me. I sometimes pretended Superman was my real dad. Every year I walked this earth, I hated my father a little more. It is the kiss of death for any child to feel different from the other kids, and I felt different in many ways. JP, the boy with no dad, JP, the poor kid, JP, the bookworm. I had friends and people liked me for the most part, but I was awkward and nervous around them, and I still am. I didn't quite fit in with anyone. I blamed it all on my father, but I could escape into television, books, and music. And those are three things that I still love to this day. And I was ahead of my time. I discovered skipping school and shoplifting and smoking cigarettes at a very young age. In the 4th grade, I missed 54 days in a row, and that's no lie. Needless to say, I failed that grade. My mother still worked really hard at the motel and walked everywhere she went, rain, snow, or shine. She had no idea what I was doing, and we had to go before a judge. And for me to tell you that he scared me straight is putting it mildly. He screamed and cussed at me to the point that I almost peed my pants. When we left the courthouse, my new goal was to do well in school, and that I did. I also stopped my life of crime. I had made it a point to stay away from drugs and alcohol, but at age 17, I decided I would get drunk. Notice that my goal was not to try alcohol, but it was to get drunk. And that's a major red flag right there. The first time I got drunk, I felt like Christopher Columbus. I felt like I had discovered a new world, a new universe. This was what had always been missing inside me. For the first time, I felt complete. I could talk to people better. I could make them laugh, and they told me I was cool. But most importantly, I could talk to girls. This was not just liquid courage. This was liquid life. So began my career as a drunk. Alcohol was very subtle and deceptive. In the early days, it was like a friend, a vital part of everything I did. It is difficult for an addict or alcoholic to look back and pinpoint the exact moment in time that the drink or drug shows its true face. And tragically, when it does, it's very difficult to do anything about it. But there is a time when one stops doing the drug and it starts doing them. And that's what I wanted to, that's the point that I wanted to make here, is that, a lot of people always look back and try to analyze, and when you go through the program of AA, you try to figure out, why did I take that first drink? Why did I take that first drink? I don't think it's important. It's as important to dissect why you took the first drink. It's why did you take the second one? And I can honestly tell you that I liked it. I liked the way it made me feel. and everybody does. I mean, you know, and I always tell people to this day, you know, people feel like if they know my history that they can't really talk about drinking or whatever. Trust me, if there was a way that I could do it in a healthy way, I would still do it because it does. It on the surface it makes you feel good, but when you have the disease of alcoholism, it flips a switch. It does something to your brain. There's something in your brain that's waiting for that alcohol to be introduced, and when that happens, it just spirals. It just turns into something. Just it takes on a life of its own. So my whole adult life was gradual descent into alcoholic devastation. Drinking played a part in a lot of losses in my life. Chief among them was the end of a very long relationship with a girl I loved with all my heart. Drinking robbed me slowly of talent and ambition as well. My desire to sing or write slowly died. I went to West Georgia College and quit after less than a year because I wasn't good at algebra. And if I couldn't be the best at something, I felt like I was a piece of crap, you know. So I hated my father, and deep down I felt like I was as sorry as he was. If I couldn't be the best at something, I simply would not attempt it. I always said I didn't care what other people thought of me, but honestly, I was afraid they would see the real me, and I hated the real me. The years flew, and with them I traveled in a slow downward trajectory. Suffice it to say, alcohol took me to some very dark and evil places, and that could be a whole different story. It's bad. Over the years, I became more and more an isolated drinker. I quit going out and absolutely stopped trying to meet girls, using the excuse that I couldn't handle the pain of rejection. I had a great job at Southwire, a place in Carrollton, Georgia, but couldn't pay my bills on time. I had reached the point where not having enough beer was not an option. If the power bill was late, screw it. I had a few very close friends who expressed concern over my drinking, and I pushed them away. In late summer 2003, I reached a point where I chose to stay home a lot. I chose to stay home a lot because I was sick. Sound familiar? This escalated until finally I was fired. I was in a state of panic and even had what I believe to be a nervous breakdown. I believe I had a nervous breakdown. Enter my sister. She wanted to help me, and she came and got me into a detox facility in LaGrange. She let me stay at her house when I got out. She walked on eggshells around me, not knowing how to help me. When she and her husband were at work, I would sell my CDs or DVDs at the pawn shop and buy beer. When I couldn't do that, I would steal change from a jar in her bedroom. That was a low down. From 2003 to 2007, I was in and out of jobs, in and out of detox, and in and out of places of my own, and in and out of my sister's guest room. She had become my codependent enabler, which is something that most addicts and alcoholics need to keep doing what they're doing. So that's something too. And if you got a drinking problem, you most likely have some people that are helping. And I know for a fact, you know, you people who are family members or loved ones of an alcoholic or an addict, they can lie better than anybody on the face of the earth. They will take you down the road and not think twice about it. And they will use you to get what they need. They need it. Okay, she had become my codependent enabler, which is something that most addicts and alcoholics need to keep doing what they're doing. In addition to detox, I spent 5 months in a Christian retreat for addiction, and once even wound up in a homeless shelter. In July of 2007, I was living on my own again in Noonan, Georgia. I had a decent job and was only drinking a few beers a night. The amount gradually increased, and I found myself calling in sick again. Then I stopped calling at all. The day I got the separation notice from my employer, something just snapped inside me. I couldn't stand to be alive any longer. I sat down at my computer, pulled up my bank's website, and tried to figure out how much money I had left. I had finally had enough. I was going to drink myself to death. I stopped eating. I stopped bathing. I just drank and passed out for short periods of time, came to, and then I drank some more. This went on for a period of about 3 weeks. The last thing I remember before each time I passed out was begging God to please not let me wake up. But, much to my surprise, I kept waking up. I was drinking Natural Life, the worst, cheapest, highest alcohol content beer I could find. I wasn't eating, so suffice it to say my stomach was doing horrible things. I would throw up uncontrollably, and the only thing that would ease my stomach was more beer. I was hiding from my landlord because I was very late with my rent. And one day she came knocking at my door. I didn't answer until I heard her fumbling for the keys to come in. I will never forget the look of horror on her face when she saw me. Weeks without showering or eating or shaving, I was something less than human. After she left, she must have called my sister, because that was the next visit I got. Her husband cursed me out and threatened me with bodily harm. He had no clue that I wanted him to kill me. I really did. Want him to kill me. And I probably deserved it. They finally left in disgust. I believe this was on a Friday night. I was rapidly running out of money, and I barely had strength left to even walk to the bathroom. By Saturday night, I was out of money and only had a few beers left. I intended to find a store where I could write a bad check for beer, but I barely had enough strength to stand. By now, I would start shaking severely just minutes after drinking a beer, and I knew things would get bad when I ran out. Screw it, I thought. Maybe this is how I would have to die. I passed out for just a few minutes, and after I finished my last beer, again praying that I would not wake up. I had no idea just how severe my alcohol abuse had been until I came to. Severe alcohol withdrawal is called delirium tremens, or DTs. That's what DT stands for, and has a wide range of horrifying symptoms. My body was convulsing uncontrollably, and my heart felt as if it were about to slam out of my chest. My stomach was spasming, trying to throw up. All that came up was acid. This is one of my lowest points. I crawled into the kitchen, where I had a 30-gallon trash can filled with beer cans. I pulled myself up to my knees and started madly grabbing for beer cans and drinking the few drops of beer left inside of them. Somewhere deep inside this filthy, alcohol-diseased animal, a small part of Julius Preston Carroll still existed. I believe it was his voice I heard in my head. Damn, man, look at yourself. It doesn't have to be this way. I lay there curled up in a ball for what seemed like forever before I crawled to the phone and called my sister. I don't even know what I said. But next thing I knew, she was taking me to that familiar detox in LaGrange. When we got there, When we got there, a black heavyset nurse was on duty at the admissions desk. I couldn't answer simple questions like, what season is it, or who is the President of the United States? And let me just, for a second, just elaborate on that. The president at the time was Barack Obama, and this was in the summer. I could not. She would ask me these questions, and I couldn't tell her the answer. I could not tell her the answer, and she hooked me up to a machine to test my pulse and blood pressure. The only way I could get relief from the convulsions was to tense up every muscle in my body, even my face and jaws. My teeth were clenched together so tightly that I thought they were going to disintegrate. After she put the cup around my arm and started the machine, she suddenly said, "Oh, hell no." She said the machine was broken. and went and got another one. After trying the new machine, she said, "Baby, we can't admit you in here. If you don't go to the hospital now, you're going to die." In my state of insanity, my first thought was, well, it's about fucking time. What took you so damn long, God? Apparently my blood pressure and heart rate were way past the point where I should have had a heart attack or a stroke. I begged my sister just to put me out on the street somewhere and let me die. But she took me to the emergency room. From where I sit today, I can make this joke. You may have a drinking problem if you were so messed up that detox won't even take you. At the ER, my shaking was even worse. My body was completely beyond my control, and my stomach was literally jumping around in my body and going through the motions of throwing up. They drew blood and gave me a shot that eased my stomach. My sister sat looking at me with a mixture of disgust and sadness. She had reached the end of her rope with me, and I knew it. In addition to the ceaseless drinking, I had been crying uncontrollably, and all the blood vessels in my eyes had ruptured until the whites of my eyes looked like they were bleeding. The sight of me had to be beyond pathetic for my sister. The doctor came and said I had to be admitted and that it was serious. In addition to the delirium tremens, I had alcoholic acidosis of the blood. The tremendous strain on my liver had caused it to expel a high quantity of acid into my blood. That didn't sound good, and it wasn't good. I was taken to a room, and my sister went home. In the room, a nurse handed me a gown and waited for me to go into the bathroom to change. And so I will describe what happened next as delicately as possible. Before changing, I tried to take a leak. Instead, I lost control of my bowels, and it was complete liquid. It went down my legs and even into my shoes. I came out and told the nurse what had happened, and she said, "You poor man, do you want a diaper?" This was the lowest point of my life. I never wanted to die more than I did at that moment. I said no, cleaned myself as best as I could, and changed into the gown. I felt like the shell of a man. All my pride was gone. They hooked a portable heart monitor to my chest, and several needles were inserted into my hand and my arm, which were attached to several bottles of liquid. They had given me a powerful sedative that had only eased my shaking slightly. I was still shaking so severely that the needles kept coming out of my hand. The process of putting them back in over and over left my hand amazingly bruised and mutilated. And my hand, I can't believe that I don't have scars. It was so bad because they kept having to find a vein. I would shake so bad that the needle would come out. It was bad. It is a miracle that I carry no trace of a scar today. One of the symptoms of DTs is hallucination, and I still to this day don't know if what I'm about to describe really happened or not. I was going in and out of consciousness that first night. At one point, I awoke to see the most beautiful blonde nurse standing at the edge of my bed. I thought I had died and gone to heaven. I really thought that. And that I thought she was an angel. I even asked her out loud if she was an angel. Well, this angel grinned and pulled out a needle that looked to be 8 inches long and plunged it into my arm for a blood sample. When I say I called her every horrible name in the book, that is an understatement. If it really happened, I wish I could find her and apologize, because I think I was making up cuss words at that point. I was just not a happy camper. That was my horrible emotional and mental state. JP thinks he's in heaven and starts cussing out the angels. I never saw her again. The next night I felt a little better physically, but I just lay in that bed crying. I had no idea that such a level of emotional pain was possible. But there in my bed, I just cried out, God, please help me. And he did. He helped me. For a few moments, I felt a great calm pass through me. For a few moments, my body stopped shaking. For just a few brief moments, I felt hope. In Alcoholics Anonymous, this is called a moment of clarity. I didn't know, I didn't know how, but I knew if I worked, I could come out of this pit I was in. The feeling passed quickly, but to this day, when anything goes bad for me, I can just cling to, I can cling to just a memory of that feeling because it really was just complete calm. And so I can make it through anything if I can remember that. People can make their own judgments on the matter, but I know that what I experienced was God. I know it. A few days later, I was released from the hospital and my sister picked me up. I had to wear paper doctor scrubs because my clothes were beyond ruined. The doctors tried to relay to me how close to death I had come, but I knew. My sister and her husband were finished with me. I knew that I needed a hardcore residential recovery program. In her final attempt to help me, she paid the deposit for me to go to a place called Damascus Road Recovery in East Georgia. This place was to recovery programs what Paris Island is to training camps. And that's no joke. Upon my arrival there, I discovered that these people understood what I was. They actually were glad I was there. I could see a light in their eyes that I didn't understand. And the light that I saw was the light of people who were living in recovery. I wanted what they had. And I just wanted to also just relay a little thing. After I got there, the director of the program and his wife had, admitted me, and the director of the program was a gentleman named Butch Scruggs, who is no longer with us. He passed away. He actually passed away almost to this day. I think he passed away August 18th, a couple of years ago. And him and his wife, ran Damascus Road Recovery. And so they admitted me and they talked to me, and they were just, straight up with me. And I can remember they were leaving to go home. And I tried to follow them like a little lost puppy. Because I felt like they cared. And they did. And I thank God for Butch Scruggs and Joe Scruggs. I just thank God for them. And I'm going to try to get through this. I'm sorry that I honestly didn't think I was going to be this emotional. It's important for me to be real. Okay. It was the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. It really was so hard to get through. They didn't put up with any bullshit. I had to face myself and everything that was in a dark place inside, and all the dark places inside of me. I had to admit that I never knew how to live. And then I had to set about finding a better way. I had to rebuild myself. It was not easy, but it was the most rewarding work I've done in my life. I was there as a client from August 17th, 2007 until December 5th, 2009. I then remained there as volunteer staff until I unexpectedly had to leave in May of 2010. Left a little sooner than I thought. I found myself living and working in my old hometown of Carrollton, Georgia by October of 2010. So what is it like now? I will never be cured of my alcoholism. I must work a simple program every day of my life, but I am free. I can go to sleep instead of passing out. I can wake up instead of coming to. I no longer carry the weight of past regrets and resentment. I no longer hate my father. On the contrary, I completely understand him. I understand him now. I thought he left because he didn't love me, when in fact he left because he couldn't love himself. As long as there is breath, there is hope. And I have hope now. I am a miracle. And I hope I'm at least relaying this fact that it's a miracle that I'm alive and sitting here. Every day since I was on my knees at a garbage can has been a gift. My measure of myself as a man is how often I do the right thing when no one is watching. When I go to bed, I pray that tomorrow, if it comes, I can be a better man than I was today. I am far from perfect, but I know that I can achieve any goal I work toward. I also know that if I do all I can and fail, that's okay. It's okay to fail. If you've done everything you can do, it's okay. It's okay. Just press on. I've gone from a place worse than death, and I really do think that what I had taken myself to was worse than dying, to the best and most honest life a man could hope for. I'm here today to tell someone that long-term recovery is possible. My name is J.P. Carroll, and I am a grateful, recovering alcoholic. And I think that, like I said, it's important to find recovery, and it's important to, when you reach the point, if you're where I was, and you reach the point where you lost everything, it's actually kind of a blessing because you have a chance to rebuild yourself. Your schedule's clear. You don't have anything tying you down, so you can change things. And so I apologize to everybody for getting emotional, but I want everybody to know that I'm happy and I am grateful. And I thank God every day. And I know that I'm still here for a reason. And I know that God isn't not done with me yet. I was kept alive for a reason. And that's why I always that's why I do this. That's why. Because I'm a private person, I usually don't share this much of myself. And I think that it's important. And I just want to let you know today that there's a chance. And if like old timer said in the AA meetings that I started going to, if nobody has told you they love you today, let me be the first. I love you. Thank you for listening. God bless.